Hi guys, welcome to Designs. This is part 2 of Live Thursday. I'm working with my Windsor Newton watercolor markers, and I've got them in this PU. It has a strap, and it's quite a wide pencil case as well, and it's for markers. It's a marker pencil case, and it holds 80. I think it's a TRUO 80. And I've put my rotring pens in. So these are rotring isograph pens, and I've got a full set of the sorry, I haven't quite got the full set because they've made some. These are quite vintage. Some have had a long time. I've still got my original set from 1979, so I've had quite a while, some of them. If you look after them, they'll last you forever, and if you don't over clean them, some of them have a little kind of rubber top, so you can pick it up and not use it for days, weeks, months on end, and it'll just start to write. And I love that. They are refillable with permanent Indian ink, and I have red, white, blue, and black. And I'm going to put some blue and some red together to make a brown, so that I can do some sepia colors as well. So I kind of like that, but at the moment I've just got black and white and blue in here. I do have some watercolor brushes in here. My water brushes, sorry, my Derwent 1, 2, and 3. And I think in the color books I'm using them like that because it makes it easier. So I've got my 3 color books. I like my color order, so I've got yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, and then I've got purples, purple blues, and greens. And then on the back I have my browns, my yellow ochres, sepias, browns, and blacks and greys. And I like that order as well. I did have some paintbrushes in there, but I decided to take them out because I can fit my riggers in here, and I normally use these for watercolors, for colouring my books. So I kind of like that. They fit in the middle. I've got a saucer, and I've also got a little dish, so you can use anything porcelain. You can use plastic, but I'm kind of getting off to plastic now, and I'm using some traditional vintagey things because I like that. So they sit next to me open, so I can just pop them out. I finished the page I started in Phantomorphia. Oops. And hence I have the sticker. So I put a sticker on the top when I start a page, and then when I finish it I put the sticker at the side. And a lot of my colour books have lots of stickers on the top and not many at the sides, but I've actually managed to finish this one. Oh, hi Melody, welcome back to Bunny's Designs. Haven't quite mastered the act of stopping videos and starting new ones on Ustream, so it's always a bit of a strange phenomenon. So I had a bit of a play with some yellows to make some golds, and use some browns to keep it kind of sepia warmy colours. I think I may put some white on there to make it more like snow, but I kind of like the subtle little colours. So I've used yellow ochre, burnt red, burnt raw sienna, raw umber and burnt umber, and sepia. And I haven't used the siennas because they're warmer. And I kind of like the fact that we've got something slightly different going on, but not too much. Oh, hi, Suzanne. Welcome back to Bunny's Designs. This is part 2. I think maybe I've got to 700 videos now. So, and Alfie did manage to bark on the last one because obviously Alfie wouldn't be Alfie without doing that, would he? So I thought I'd have a bit of a play in this one and do the owl page, if I can find it. I did start this one. This is watercolors, but I can't remember how I did them. So I'm loath to go back to that one at the minute. I want to do the owls. I think they were in Animorphia. I'm not in the studio at the moment, so I have bits and pieces all over. I want to be working in this one as well in a minute. I'm going to be working this probably in part 3 because I photocopied it. I want to play with... actually, I could do this next. I'll do this next. This is slightly thicker photocopy paper. It's probably 100 or 90, whereas normal cheap paper is about 80. But I want to see how good it is for colouring. So I might colour this one and this one in. And I want to find out how the markers react with that. So I'm off for cold coffee. Has anybody got any questions? So the wonderful Suzanne sent me this book, and I've been so frightened to work in it. It's ridiculous. So I've bitten the bullet, and I shall be colouring both on the paper and in the book today. But I don't think I'm going to go through because I'm not going to work as wet. But I'm going to use this as a practice. Now my palette looks a bit messy. So if I can find my plastic one. I did, as I say, do two different ones. So I'll work on that one today. And of course, we know that this particular mushroom is our favourite for being the red capped one. Is it the algae one? It's called the algae one. The fly algaric. So I'm going to have a play with the photocopy first. So we can do two things. We can have a look and see if we like the colours, or we can we have a colour guide in here. But I think I want to kind of have some deeper reds. Oh, hi Tina, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I haven't learnt the art of tweeting yet. I shall have to learn the art of tweeting. So if I can do this, hopefully this. And hopefully this. Bear with me, guys. You get so used to doing lots of other things. It's when everything changes, it's difficult to remember things. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, I'm going to try and have a go doing that. So I've got a piece of paper to practice colours on. And I do want a clean palette because, oh, mind you, we should be okay there. I've got some browns in there, but I've got some reds. I can use some reds in that one. So I'll have a go on here first, then I'll play in the book. I'll be brave. I'm thinking cadmium red and cadmium red light. So I'll scratch a bit of colour here. And I love the way they squeak. And I love the fact that instead of having to get paint out, that's it. And I can't stress that enough. I really do like that. And this is cadmium red deep. So this particular set of Windsor & Newton pens. So I'm working with my number 1. I think I'm going to stay with my number 1 Derwent watercolor brush because it's fine, but it's wet. It's continuous. So I don't have to keep going in and out of paint. It might find it's too wet for this, but we'll have a go. Absolutely love my watercolor markers. So I think I'm going to start on the top, and again, we can't be too wet. This is photocopy paper. So I'm just going to put a little bit. And what I think probably is going to happen is I'm going to have to work a little bit and then go somewhere else and come back and work a bit. Because I think that's the nature of these particular paints. They're professional pigments. And I think that's a little bit pinky. So this is cadmium red. So the cadmium red light is a very orange red. So I think we need things slightly pinkier for this particular. I may have to go to a smaller brush actually just to get in. And I'm just manipulating the tip of the brush, and I'm doing that because I don't want to over wet it. If I start to scrub at the bottom, I'm sure I'll activate a lot more water. Now, bearing in mind we're on photocopy paper here, so if it's going to buckle, it's going to buckle. That's fine, but we do want to test it, because then that means anybody wants to photocopy my colour book pages. This is why I'm doing this. I'm testing paper with these beautiful watercolours. So we can still do watercolours. I'm going to change to the darker cadmium now. The deep cadmium. I think it's probably a bit too pink maybe, but my favourite colour for mushrooms is 50-50 Elysian Crimson and cadmium red. But I'm thinking that this cadmium red deep probably is almost there. So we've got some quite nice colour. Oh, I'll zoom in a bit. Sorry about the light, guys. I'll zoom in a bit. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. I knew somebody had been telling me about Bristol vellum. Yes, I will, because I think that might be the best. I've actually used Bristol, and I'm quite impressed with it. I've been doing copies. This one is £110. Oh, sorry, guys. And I did really enjoy working with this, and I got quite wet as well. So I really enjoyed working on here. So yeah, I don't know if this will go through. It's a bit thicker, but I think some printers can take it that little bit thicker. I'll rename that. So if I write that down, Suzanne, thank you for that. I can test Bristol vellum. Paper. I'll get some of those and see if it'll come in a pack. So thank you, Suzanne, for that. I mean, it's not gone through. There's a bit of a there where I was a bit wetter to begin with, but it's doing okay. But I've not built up cover, so that now I'm going to leave. And I'm not happy with my colour, so I'm going to use the ordinary cadmium red. Oh, that's cadmium red deep, isn't it? Yes, it is. Put it in the wrong place. So I'm going to put cadmium red there now. So actually, I'm going to do cadmium red deep and cadmium red, because I think I like this colour. And I'm going to start at the bottom, so it's completely dried, and so I'm going to give it another coat now. And just see what happens. So thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope everybody's all right. This is the live Thursday, and everybody's out, so it's quite the dog's behaving themselves a little bit. Alfie's had a bit of a waff. And that could be Happy Mail, because I bought another little book. again, I like the fact that I'm not having to dunk into water. There's always something nice about that. It's very easy, and again, you know, if you could do this almost anywhere. So I kind of like what's going on. Sorry guys, I forgot that I moved everything across. I need to build, so I might have to go to a thinner brush. So I'm going to leave that one for the minute. I've got some sepia and brown on here. So I'm actually just going to pick up a bit of this so we can do the pine cone. And I would have liked the pine cone to be a bit paler, but never mind. So I had gone off colouring for a bit because I think I'm more obsessed with colouring my mushrooms at the minute. But it's quite funny because if something happens and you're feeling a bit ugh, you do go back to colouring. So I'm just having a spot of bother at the minute. So I'm trying to keep. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Yes, Suzanne. I love it. Yes, that might be the answer then, because I want everybody to have access to my colour book, and I think some people might not want to spend a lot of money, but they might want to colour. So I'm all for art should be free. Really, art should be for everybody. So hopefully, because I can't envisage anybody wanting to produce my books on watercolor paper. So I think if I just have them for people to just print out. I kind of like that. Now I've left the edges. There's nothing on them at all. But I think I want to go in there with a lighter brush. There's a little bit of, I can see there. Oh, sorry guys, working backwards is not brilliant. You see there's a little bit of, just a little bit of something. But I was working quite wet. So I've given it a bit of a rest now. I think that yellow ochre is going to be really nice as the mushroom frill. And this is what gave me the idea for the veranda, because if you think they've all got these little skirts, if you turn that upside down, it becomes a veranda. And of course, because it's make-believe and because it's fairyland, we can do that. So we're not dealing with reality, and yet we're not too far away from it. I'm not sure if I could do this minute. So I'm going to have a go on this one. I think I may have to stop in a second, guys. Oh, I like that. So that's yellow ochre. So I think underneath, I think we're going to try raw sienna, which is paler. One thing I definitely know about these markers, even though they are watercolor, there is no way you can put them directly onto a page. They will go through practically anything apart from watercolor paper because they are so well pigmented. So that was a little bit wet, that, but we can start to think again using my sepia. not at full strength, just kind of to give a bit of a shadow effect on there. And it's quite gentle, is this? It is quite a nice gentle way to work. And I think we might have a bit of a shadow. And again, this is quite nice because it'll do that shadow for you. So I've got two shadows in there now. And then coming up here, we would have more shadow as well. And again, this is what I want to do with this. I want to kind of really take it to the next level. So I'm actually going to bring out, I may as well play with my beautiful, I'm not actually using the new ones. I've got a number 2. I think mine's the number 3, wasn't it? Yep. I don't think I want one bigger than that. 20, and then I've got these little fine diddy ones to use, a 50. So I'm going to use my sable. Can't hold this brush now anymore, unfortunately. Had a bit of a tumble. Well, it was sabotaged, actually. It was sabotage, really, when you think about it. My daughter left a broom, a sweeping brush, across the room. And I remembered it when I went one way, and when I came back, I forgot. So I put my hands out. So I bust both wrists. So let's see how easy we're going to do with this. So I've got a new clean pot of paint. And I have my little inkwell here. So let's see. And we have our baby wipe. So let's see if we can really get some detail into here. I'll push this to one side a bit. And again, I need that small triangle for me. So you will have to work what's best for you. And I think I'm going to have some of that red. So we want that cadmium red deep, actually, is probably going to be a pretty good colour. But I also want to get in, and so I'm going to use my dioxazine purple, because this is what I use for a shadow. And of course, we want to get rid of these lines here. So this is a bit bigger brush. These are my Sable Series 7. This is number 2. And you can twist it and it arrives in a beautiful point. And I'm just going to pick up this cadmium red deep. So it is going to be quite a nice dark colour. And again, I feel this is the way I want to work today. I love the other way, which I was using earlier, which is with a Derwent watercolor brush. Sorry, a Derwent water brush. But this is kind of, if I say, a bit daintier or a bit softer. That's how I mean it to be. And of course, I'm making it quite runny now, so it's a proper watercolor. But remember, this is photocopy paper. It's a little bit thicker than ordinary photocopy paper, but not much. So whatever I do, I've got to kind of work in an area and then leave it alone. Now, at the moment, we're still having our bit of a heat wave. But I do want to build up some kind of really dark space. And I also want to get rid of the line as well. So, but again, remember, we're on a color page. but we can do that with these paints because they're so well pigmented. So you see, if we go too far, you get that. So we have to be a little bit careful. But I want to bring in a bit of purple. Now I use purple and alizarin crimson. And when I mix these two together, it gives me a bit of a carmine, a burnt carmine colour, I think. Now it's actually going to be darker because there's a bit of sepia on there. But I actually like that colour. This brush probably could be smaller, but we can then go around each one and give it. I mean, this would take hours. This is not a quick. It's not like the other Kirby Roseanne page we were doing. You know, this is going to take hours. So you have a choice of how to use these beautiful watercolors, and hopefully, I mean, frame guys, sorry. And this is where we can go in there, and that brush is a little bit big actually. So I'm going to put some more alizarin crimson and a bit more dioxidine purple, and that makes, as near as damn it for me, that is making my colour. Now I've washed that away, but that's fine. Clean the brush. I think I'm going to go for my 201. That's quite nice brushes, that one. I think I've been using these two the most, 20 and a 2, for this colour book. So I use alizarin crimson and dioxidine purple to make what I consider to be a burnt carmine. And that is quite a nice. Now I'm working very strong, but not very wet this time, because again, you forget. This is why ordinary watercolor brushes don't work. Riggers are perfect, and you forget. Sometimes you get carried away. So this is quite nice to just tease that burnt carmine color under there. And if you think it's too purple, then we need to put something else with it. And if I take the 50, which is very tiny, and I take some sepia, which again, it's not a black, it's a very dark color. I can put it on here actually. Oops. And again, I love the fact that I don't have now to put water to that to get it to a watercolor consistency. It's the consistency that is perfect, because now it's just perfect to work with a damp brush. And I will zoom in a second. Oh, so I guess I don't want to lose my brushes on the floor, because Bungle, it's one of Bungle's favorite things. So with a really tiny brush, we can kind of go in there and create some really nice shadows, and that will make them pop out a bit. Now, actually, probably don't need any more water than I've got. But so we have a shadow, and then we have a dark shadow. So technically, we've got two shadows. And I started doing that when I was using the Joanna Bassford Christmas, and I was colouring in underneath the berries. I was colouring in the berries on the clock page, and the ivy, and started putting these shadows in, and realised that we had two shadows. We have our overshadow, and then we've got a darker shadow, and I really like that. So we have a smaller, that was a bit big, but just bare minimum, and it just takes that black edge away. Now, of course, we can't take it away at the top, but we might be able to redden that one. But I like the fact that we've got that purple burnt carmine initial, and then we've got inside that we've got a sharper and you can see, oops, so good, you can see that they're going to pop out more than the other ones. And what technically I'd love to do is to get rid of the top, but this is rather a fat pen it's been drawn in. It's not a fine pen, and because of that we can't get that red really any deeper to get it away. Otherwise it would be quite nice to make the whole of this disappear, and of course then those little white fronds will really pop out then. And it's the consistency of these watercolors that I kind of like, you know, they're ready out the tube. There's no opening a tube, there's no spraying with water on pans. Everything that I used to love has completely changed on its head because of these markers. Oh yes, Suzanne, I found my 99p one. And Joe and Sari have been shut at least 20 years, maybe, I think. So Casa at the moment have, I think it's, in fact, I can tell you exactly because I've got the receipt in my hand. They were $39.95 for 4 brushes. But if you go on the Windsor & Newton website, it shows you how they're made. Why am I going the wrong way? It shows you how they're handmade. But the others were a £5. So in my thing here, I've put my Windsor & Newton watercolor sable riggers, and you can buy rounds as well. These are sable, but these are about a £5 each. These are about a tenner each, I think, go up to, depending on the size of the brush. So I thought that was a good price for 4. And I know I have a lot of little packets and brush boxes, but the idea was this would fit inside my pencil case, my PU pencil case, and it does. Oh, hi, Darla. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. So you sometimes you can fish about and get that. And at the moment, Casa have another offer. I don't know if it's still on, but when I bought mine, you bought there were $3.95 each, the markers, and you got a third one free. So if you bought 2, you got 1 free. So basically, that's just short of £8. So you got 2 for £8. And at the range, they had the same offer, was 3 for a tenner. And I was very impressed because I was worried that they would take them off the shelf where people had been practicing with them. But they, apart from 2, they all came in plastic sealed little packets. So I was very impressed with Casa for that. I was a bit worried that they would be off the shelf, but they weren't. As I say, apart from 2, they were all sealed in little plastic. I don't like plastic, but they were all sealed. But I always say, get a set first. I never thought I would buy all of them because I've got lots of everything, but I've absolutely fallen in love with them. And I really, really like the idea that I am colouring with professional watercolours and professional sable brushes. They're probably too nice to use on this page. It's just that they are so soft in your hand. They barely weigh anything. And as I say, because I've done something to the wrist, this is not too difficult to use. They're quite light. And as much as I love my water brush, I'm still having to kind of maneuver something. So just for ease, I'm using these on there. So I think this paper is slightly thicker than the colour book. So we'll have a bit of a play now on the colour book and see how we go. So hi guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope everybody's all right. Don't miss anybody. If you say hi in caps, I shall say hello to you. I'm trying to keep in frame. I'm still on my sofa on my little Diddy table, so we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well. But again, I like the fact you can build up. And as long as you're careful, and you could do this on a double-sided, but single-sided, I think you'd be fine because you do have that little bit of marking. But again, that's where I went in at full strength. These are professional watercolors, and you cannot use them drawn on unless you use watercolor paper, because they go through absolutely everything, because they are pure watercolors. So you end up with a lot soaked in and not on top. So I'm just going to try and get that tiny bit more shadow. See how dark we can take that. And as I say, I'm desperately trying not to lose my brushes. So I do like the 2-0, especially for detail. So we'll take the 2-0, and I'm picking up my Elysian Crimson again. And we want to build up this because, of course, even though it's a red, it's not a shadow. It would be nice to build that up. Because remember, the darker the darks, the lighter the highlights look. So the little white fronds are going to really step out the darker we get. For some reason, my camera's moved. I'll just see if I can move it back again. Sorry, guys. Let's see if we can move it back. That's better. That's a bit better. So thanks for stopping by. Oh, yes, Suzanne, is that a good price? Yeah. I know there are maybe £10 for small ones going upwards. So I thought 40, just short of £40 was quite good. But then I did find, I think I found 4 2-0s and another a number 2. So I'm using my original ones. And I did find the 99p one. Actually, that's the one I'm supposed to be working with. So this one, I went up to the lady and I said, this is a Jarrett and Sowery Series 7. They've always been expensive. They've always been top of the range. And you can see the end. You know, I have used this one. I used this one at college for fine work. And I've used this probably for Indian ink, because that's what we use them for fine work. And I said, you know, it shouldn't be 99p. And they said, well, it's 99p. I said, well, you might want to put the price up a bit because they've never been 99p, and that's a bit cheap. And after the third time of telling them, I bought it for 99p. So I left the sticker on because I just think it's wonderful that you can buy a 00 Series 7 Fine Sable Windsor & Newton Bosch for 99p. So actually, I'm going to put this one back because I want to be working with the one that I've had for about 20 odd years, maybe. Put that one back. And I found a Series 16 Sable, and again, that's not a bad point. Again, I've had this one. This one probably is my original set, and that was from 1979. So I think it's fine to use. Just looking for my. Oh, it was 2 number 3s I had. That's what I had. 2 number 3s. So I found some quite tiny ones. I think I'm going to use my number 2 and save the other ones for my watercolors. So again, I've let it rest, and now I'm building up that color. so I can get a very, very rich colour on there. So there's 3 or 4 layers, but I have let it rest. So that's on about, I think that one's about 100 GSM. It's not the GSM one, it's the photocopy paper, but this one's it's the same make, I think. It's HP bright white inkjet paper. This one's 90, and my other one was, this one's 100. And normal cheapy printer paper is 80, so it's just that bit thicker. But I wanted to see if we can get that lovely thing going. And if I just take my 50 again, really fine brush, even a spotter would do, you know. This is where the dog hair comes in, but we've got that sepia, and this is where we make those highlights really pop out. It's probably a bit thicker than I want to be. You're basically drawing on the line, but it's taking it away from being black to being a dark brown. So it becomes a really nice dark. So if you can imagine all of that done with this, it really makes things pop out. And then of course here we can kind of get another shadow in. And I quite like the idea that you can get some quite good. It's drying very much today because it's such a warm day again. But we can bring that one to life as well. And then with that, this one's a sable, but it's a series 3A, and I think that's, I can't see it on there. I think it's a 230. Oh dear, I've got a bit of a oof going on there. Don't know what that was. Oh look, it's having a moment. Yeah, it's having a moment, is that brush. These are quite old, as I say. They are quite old, but it means we can give these. Keep that a bit wet, and then just, oops. So I kind of like that idea that we can really kind of get some detail into it. And again here we've got our initial shadow, but we can take it a step further. And we can kind of put in all sorts, if we want, of darks. I do like the sepia. I do like the sepia because it kind of really makes things pop. So we can get some quite good detail on there. And again, you know, I've worked wet on wet there, so that, even though it was a fine brush, probably not the best idea to do. And never ever leave your paintbrushes in water. The only ones you leave in water are acrylics, and you leave them slight angle. Never ever. A saucer would be good to leave them like that, but you never want them like that. But even my cheap ones I have like that. Submerged in water, that's how to paint with acrylics. Then you get it out, you dry it, then you put it back and you lay it flat. So you're not putting any pressure on the bristles at all. And that's why acrylic palettes have always got a flat edge. So you've got bare minimum on there. So quite like that. I'm actually going to bite the bullet and work in the book. I will put this piece of paper behind. Oh, that's just not what I wanted to do. Right, I'm going to put that behind there. And think about getting my papers back. Yeah. So have you got any questions? I just have to get my paintbrushes back. I just have a mouthful of cold coffee. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to ask anything? We'll have another fur baby update in a bit because I'm obsessed with these kittens. It doesn't take much for me to be obsessed. Right, so we want to work on this one. So just move the camera slightly the other way. So this is, oops, I might just do that actually. This is live Thursday stream. Yeah, that's handy. Unfortunately, everything's got to be a bit handier. So just wait a second, guys. I have to pick all those paintbrushes up that I've just dropped on the floor. And pick the paintbrushes up. I don't think I can get them without an avalanche. See, if Bungle was here, Bungle would pick them up for me. He'd probably destroy them on the way there. I thought I had 5, but I don't know. No. So if I put the camera there, I leave the paintbrushes there so that they don't keep getting away from me. And I can work on the edge of my little plate. So we want Elysian Crimson and Cadmium Red. And I'm going to be using my number 2, but it is a series. It's a different series. Yeah, this has had Indian ink in it, you can tell. So I've had this brush since I was 16 years old. And I went to art college 1970. I think it was 1979. No, it wasn't. It'd be 78, I think, actually. I was 16, so it'd be 78, I think. So let's have a quick look over side. Oh, absolutely nothing, so that's good. You can see the light. You can see where I've painted there, the red. There's nothing. So actually that's quite nice. This paper is a little bit thicker than the thick photocopy paper, although I'm not doing too much of a wet on there. And it is soaking in. But again, this is again a nice, peaceful way to work. I like peaceful ways. Do like peaceful ways. Now, the other thing we could do with this is we could put it. I cannot believe I'm actually painting in this book. I've never been brave enough to paint in this book before. So I'm getting braver. I was just so convinced, and I wanted to use watercolors, but I was so convinced it wouldn't work, but it's working quite well. I think I must remember not to kind of go over a section until it's completely dried. That might be some kind of, yeah, absolutely nothing. So I'm quite pleased with that. No, accidentally that's gone down there. And I've got my green. Sorry, I tell a lie. I haven't got my green. I've got my shadow. It's a different shadow. This isn't carmine. This is using the red, but with some green in it. And it's quite a nice shadow. So we want a bigger shadow here. And this big shadow makes these big fronds big, standing out tall, rather than just being thin little. They're quite big, these. So they're kind of thick, if that makes sense. So I think I'm actually going to put the colour in here. So I've got three colours. I've got Elysian Crimson, and I'm using quite a lot this time because it's a bigger space. I'm using Cadmium Red. I've got Cadmium Red Deep there. Okay, Cadmium Red Deep. And here I want Cadmium Red Deep and Dioxazine Purple. And all three are 50-50. So what we then have is the red. And this is a bit deeper, actually. I kind of like this one. I think this one's a little bit deeper. So it's Cadmium Red Deep. So all you need to do is just make that a little bit darker. I don't want to go over what I've been over just yet because it's not going to like it. And on the top there is a watered down version of the colour. Mix Cadmium Red with Dioxazine Purple to give us our shadows. And this actually is a bit of a deeper shadow than I wanted, but it's working quite well. Oh, sorry guys, I lost chat. Oh, bye Melody, thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful afternoon or evening, I think, for you, darling. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. So thanks guys for stopping. This is my live Thursday show. Possibly the 700th video. Hopefully it's not 700 videos of rubbish, but there might be a little bit of something on all of them. But it's amazing when you do stream a full day how many videos you make. So it quite easily do 5 and 6. And I used to do that 2 or 3 times a week. So I used to make about 25 videos a week. And I don't make as many now, but so I was making quite a few, but purely selfish reasons. It's just easier for me. So I've got that initial one, and then I want to go in there and kind of really darken it up. I think slightly pinkier though, I think. But where this is darker, you see, it works better. But we just need to make that a bit smaller. So make that a bit smaller. So you can get some nice effects. And again, I like the fact I'm working in watercolor, but I'm working in a color page. I don't have to have all that kerfuffle with watercolor paper. So we've got our initial big shadow to make it tall. So we've got a tall sticky outy thing rather than a small. And then we want this, the sepia. I'll put my sepia now. I need a little bit of sepia to make that not as big. And we're getting rid of that black line. So it really does make them pop out. Yes, Suzanne. It's just, I get it out nearly every, I must colour this, I must colour this. I love the mushrooms, I love the mushrooms. And then I look at it and go, I'm too frightened, I'm too frightened. So actually, I think because I've had a play with these mushrooms, there's nothing at all on the other side. But perhaps if I'd have worked a bit differently, I wouldn't have got this kind of really dry technique. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and kind of think, yeah, I'm going for it. So we've got we need a wet brush, and then we pick up the colour. And it does help if you get a point. It's nice to get a point. But I like the fact that you can actually build up, but you must not scrub it too much. And you must let it dry. But it's just learning a different way to work, that's all. This is, oh, that's a bit wet, you see. You can tell instantly it's a bit wetter. And if we, in theory, work to the top, although this is not a rigger, this is not going to do what the riggers do. This is a colour brush. You touch it and whoosh, all your colour comes out. So there's no, and I haven't got a point on the end there, so that's a bit better. So just very gently dabbing the colour where I want it. And then because it's getting a little bit lighter, perhaps that looks a little bit. We turn that right way around. We've got a bit of a highlight going on there, so this can be darker. So quite naturally, I've made it that this is going to be the darker side. So I can pick some more colour up. And this is only because it's such a hard day. I suppose you could use a hairdryer if you wanted to. I just think at the moment for me, I'd better not pick up a hairdryer. So I kind of like that. Yes, Suzanne, it did. Yes, it did. This book was wonderful. It's bought by me for Suzanne. And it's definitely got me now. I've gone the second time over this, and you can see now that there is a tiny little bit of a buckle, but nothing to write home about. And so I'm going to leave that, because if I go over it again now, I'll make a boo-boo. So even though it feels dry, it wants to rest. So now I have to do the bottom bit now. So I think I did sienna for that one, didn't I? I will put those colours back. I'll probably scratch them up first. So we've got cadmium red deep, and we've got alizarin crimson. And I think I used alizarin crimson and dark purple. So that's given my burnt carmine, and that's given me my mushroom colour. So I'm not too far away from its original state, which is exactly what I want. So this one is yellow ochre. I'm going to put yellow ochre over there. And in actual fact, raw sienna is lighter than yellow ochre. So make sure the brushes are clean. Just get rid of that and pop that on there so we can see. So I think that would be lighter than that. So I'm going to do that one, the raw sienna. And again, you want a nice consistency, because we're only going to get a one hit on this. Really, we don't want to be messing about wetting it too much, because it definitely will not like it. And I think I've got a natural highlight on that side, so we're going to leave that. Leave it alone now. A bit wet that, but just go away with it. Could do with the number 2 brush slightly bigger, I think. Quite nicely, actually. Okay, it's a beautiful brush, holds quite a bit, but it does go to a nice point. But I can't go there now, so I'm going to go under here. And I think I'm going to do this in stages, because it appears to be. So we'll go to this bit first. It needs to be a touch wetter. We're having a heat wave in the UK at the minute, so our watercolours are not behaving like they would normally. And that's a bit too light. Let's pick that bit up there. I think there's kind of a little bit of a something going on. Make it a bit more interesting. And I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go back up to this one. I could go to the, I want to do a sepia. I'm a bit of a sepia girl. So here, I think I'm going to put a little bit of sepia, because that's going to be my shadow for that one. But if I use it quite plain, and just do a little test. Need that a bit dry, a bit wetter than that, really. So we can get a nice bit of shadow going on. And again, barely damp. Oh, I made a bit there. I'm leaving the ends, so they're going to be highlighted. So we're just going to go, and this is how I worked in the other book, just going to one side, then going to another, and somewhere else, then back over here. The pale ones are going to be that way because that's where the light's coming from. So I think now we can go back this way. And it is just a tiny amount of colour, because remember, you can always build up again. I suppose you could use a heat gun or a hairdryer if you wanted to. I like the fact that everything should settle naturally, and then the next time we go in, it's not going to be too much of a shock, because that's going to be a bit darker down there. Get to the other side, and it's beginning to dry now, so I need to put a drop more water. There's too much water there, but it's very strong as this colour, so it works quite nice. Weak, although I think that's probably too weak. Let's have a look. Again, it's a very pale colour, but remember, we can always make it darker, but we can't on a colour page take it off. On watercolour paper, sometimes you can, but definitely not on there. So thank you, Suzanne, for this beautiful book, because it has quite nice things. Suzanne says, yes, kitties are. In fact, what I might do is let that dry a minute, and we'll have a quick kitty cam again. So we'll have a quick kitty cam. So it looks okay there, and it's fine there. There's that little bit of a, sorry guys, there's that little bit of a bobble there, just where I put a bit too much wet there. So not at all where I've gone over. So we'll leave that for a minute to do its thing, and we'll have a very quick kitty cam. So we've got some new cats on the block, some new kits on the block. We've got this one, and I've forgotten her name. She's in the pen at the minute, bless her. Little socks. And that was Bungle. She's just a delight. So I feel a sketch coming on. Let's have a look what we want. But these are the new kits on the block. That's the studio, so it is coming along with the mushrooms. It is coming along. I've got my big desk out. Can't keep things out on it though, because they get too hot. It's over 100 in there. So these are the new kits on the block, and this is the Ma. And she was a bit, she wasn't skittish, but she was a bit of a fly-by-night. Oh, what did I do that for? Where's she gone? So she's a young mum, and she's upside down. She's a young mum, and she doesn't keep still very often. So when she rolls over, the kittens. But I mean, she's got like 2 weeks of this. She's only had 2 weeks of this. So there were 2 weeks and 2 days old there, I think. So, but she was doing lots of wonderful kind of exercises with her paws, stretching her paws out, and some great workouts for antenatal. Brilliant workouts for antenatal she was doing. She did one with her paw, just real big antenatal stretches. she was just fidgeting about a lot. But she's calmed down a bit now because she moved the babies twice, and then she moved them underneath the table. She moved one, and I moved the little packet with the 3 little kids on. This is the only little girl, and she's got her eyes open, but you can hardly see them. But again, they're 2 weeks old here. They just started to play this week, but I think that's going to be a card. I think I might have to put these on the card because I think that's quite a cute little picture that of the babies. But yeah, they were rushing about, fidgeting. Difficult to get photographs of them. And then I did get a nice one with the mum. These are quite cute, these 2 little monsters. And they're all boys, apart from the dark-haired one. The darkest one is a little girl. So we got that one. I think that's probably the nicest one. So that's the little girl, and they're all boys. And they're all T's. I think are they T's? I think they're all T's. So I think that's the best picture. I think I'm going to have to make some cards. Bye, Suzanne. Thanks for stopping by. Yes, well, they say they're going to be a few weeks because they want a certain man to come. So I'm hoping to be in for Christmas, but and I do like working on digital because it's just so easy to use the Apple Pencil. And the nicest thing is you don't ruin your brush. Oh, did I put this on there? I did. You don't ruin your brush. So again, that's quite nice. So I was playing about with the stars, didn't like certain things, liked other things. Didn't really like that, but I liked the vines. So I went back to drawing the ivy. So I kind of enjoyed that. It was quite good. You can do it when you're watching TV, but you can do it anywhere. And again, I like that. You don't have to have your acrylics out. And if it's a picture that you not really want to destroy, you can still do it. So again, you've got the best of both worlds. So yes, Darla, thank you. Yes, they are coming to do it, but it's over 100 degrees in there at the moment. So I'm still on the sofa. So that's as far as I got, I think. Yeah, that's as far as I got. But I do like playing in Pro because, of course, you can turn it round, and I've got my stars, blow it and put the stars in. And it is very rough. It's very rough until you start to put the. Oh, sorry, I'm still working. Look, you can see I'm putting the detail on here. There, I put a highlight. Yes, it is dried out. There's no damp. It was all condensation. That's what it was. But it was the finish that wasn't very good. But anyway, they said they'd come and do that for me. So that's where we are so far on my Procreate altered book page. So hopefully that's given that time to finish. I think I've told you about the cats. Oh, we've got, with the other couple of cats, we've got some older cats in. And this is our SPCA Ghoul, so you can go on the website and see where the kitties are. Very quickly, we'll show you Little Man. So here we have Maria. And Maria's 10. So she needs a home. And then we want Buddy. Buddy's 5 years old. Oh yes, Suzanne, that's maybe an idea. Yes. Or even Bungle messing about. And this is Rocco. Look at Rocco. He's beautiful. Isn't he a smart boy? This is Rocco. Isn't he absolutely scrumptious? Now, I didn't get to the pens to see them, but my daughter took some photographs of them. So those are ready for adoption as well. So we've got some quite good things. But as I say, don't ever think you can't do anything, because I go play with kittens and it's wonderful. So never think you can't do anything. So I think our mushrooms have dried. I might just go in this one again to give that extra time to dry. So I've got my number 2 Windsor Newton. That's my new one. I think I'm going to go in there with that sepia. Actually, I'm not. I tell a lie. I'm going to put the shadow on that one. I've put a bit of a shadow on that one. And again, it just looks like dirty water. And if you were doing a watercolor, and you were doing snow and shadows on snow and snow footsteps and in the snow, you would use dirty water. You don't have to mix any blacks or anything. You just use dirty water, and it's still white, but it's a shadow. So that one's building up a little bit. I think if I just put some more sepia out. And just took a tiny bit. So I've got a damp brush. This is the bit I want to do in here, which is the fold. Hi, Bungle. Bungle's just entered the room. He's catching bees. He's catching flies. He's a bored boy, he's our Bungle, but he's still snotty, bless him. So we've got a bit of a skirt going on there. Again, I might just put that a bit darker, I think. And that's a bit darker. So building up a little bit here, and that's actually quite nice considering the fact that we're supposed to be on photocopy paper. Again, I kind of like that, so we build some dark shadows in. And I didn't think I'd be able to do this on this kind of paper because obviously it's not a watercolor paper. So let's have a very quick look at the other side. And it's damp, but it's not doing anything. It's not going through. So I want to leave that alone now. And I think I'm going to go for a yellow ochre on here. I think we're going to have a little bit of yellow ochre. Actually, a tail fib. I think I'm going for raw sienna because raw sienna is lighter than yellow ochre. And I think that's sometimes difficult to remember. So put a little bit of this on. And again, we can have that bit of a test paper there to just have a look. And that is quite pale, but remember we can, oh, I've missed one there. Look, we can always go back over it. That is quite pale, is that? That's a better colour. So it's burnt raw sienna and yellow ochre. And when we get the darkest colour, we start at the bottom again and work forward because there'll be more light on the top than there would on the bottom. Bungle's been a bad puppy. So thanks guys for stopping by. Hope everybody's all right. I hope we're all getting used to being live on YouTube. It's still a bit scary when you first go on, I have to say. Just have to not think about it and hope everything's the right way around. And so thanks guys for stopping by. Quite enjoying playing with these mushrooms. Been desperate to get into this book for quite a while. I like that. There's a little subtle change in colour. So I kind of like that. And I have messed up this one here. So I just put that in. Not going to do anything else with that now because, again, although it's behaved itself quite well, it needs to dry. But what that means is I can get up here now. So clean the brush. Twist it on a baby wipe till it's to a point. And then we've got our Elysian Crimson. Actually, I do need a bit of a damper brush for that. Elysian Crimson and Cadmium Red Deep. And this is where we can get this colour going on. Touch more water, I think. I did put these out a while. Again, you can see the consistency. And we just want to stroke. And almost immediately I want that to dry. Really don't want any dampness. So it's a bit time consuming, this one, because you have to let them dry. So you have to let them dry. So we're converting the dining room into a bunny room. So Suzanne suggests having a live cam on the buns. I did have a bit of a shadow, a bit of a highlight over there, so this wants to be a little bit darker. Again, I haven't touched this for a while, so I can go back in it now and build up darkness. You can have a bit of darkness there. Then on the top, we wouldn't. And we've used all that, so I'm quite pleased about that because, again, twist to a point. The brush always likes to go back to its original shape. So I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to put some shadow in there now. So this is my 50, and this is the series. Turn that round. So we've got alizarin crimson dark. Sorry, we've got cadmium red deep and quinacridone magenta. Beg your pardon, we haven't. We've got dioxidine purple, and that's a little bit too purple for me. I think, yeah, it's too purple. So I'm going to put a little bit more cadmium red deep in there. I'm going for a burnt carmine look. That's what we want. We want burnt carmine. Or an aubergine. So that's aubergine. I want a burnt carmine. So I want it on the ready side. And I think that's what we've got. So this is the big deep shadow to make this thing look, each one look quite big and deep. And then the next darker shadow, the sepia, is the shadow of the shadow. And it will make them pop out. So we'll pop that like that. And again, this is a real nice, quiet way to work. I do have a pot of water. I do have a small dish. But you could put the little plastic palette underneath the page and have it sticking out. And I'm not using a lot of water, so you don't have to have a big pot. So again, and then when you decide where the shadow is coming from, that side, you can start to put more shadow in. And follow each one round. It's a bit time consuming, but at the end of the day, I like working like this. So they're going to get darker and darker, and those greys are going to get lighter and lighter. And then we want the sepia to give us the dark. Now, I probably should do the dark last, but I'll just show a little bit. So this is the one that we want, the 50. That's the tiniest, tiny one. And even a spotter would do. So this is where we just, and again, I should have probably let that dry. This one might be a place to put a shadow. And again, you can just see the difference between that side and this side when you put that extra shadow in. It just makes it pop. And turn that round. Pick up some sepia and make that a bit darker, a bit more sepia. So that's full strength, and full strength is quite dark. But we can really make those little mushrooms pop out. And little fronds rather, sorry. So again, it's just extremely warm today. And sometimes you can work better with a longer brush because it stays colder for longer. I kind of like those. You can see they're getting deeper, and that brush is probably a bit tiny, that one. So now I'm going to take some of this sepia. It's not quite as strong. And I'm going to go into here and just create a little bit of a shadow in there. So it's not quite as strong as the other ones, but it's stronger than the pale. And when you put a dark next to a light, you get your highlight. So get some more sepia, using quite a lot of sepia actually. But it's a bigger page, you know, it's a bigger. So what I want to do is really make that dark so that pops out. And that's the shadow of that one. So we've got some shadows going on as well. And again, this is not an easy, quick thing to do. This is just gently colouring in. But you're learning brush strokes, you're learning colours. Your brush control will get better. If you can do this, the next stage is drawing your own things, because you naturally want to. You get to this nice, this is nice, and but you'll think, well, I wish that mushroom was over there, or my brush is definitely poorly. If you look at it, it splits. So by putting a shadow behind the highlight, the shadow makes the highlight lighter, and the light highlight makes the shadow darker, if that makes sense. So you want to put a dark shadow next to a highlight, and they'll both complement each other. the lighter will look like brighter and the darker will look dark, the shadow will look darker. So you've got like a bit of a shadow going on. I think I need some more sepia. But again, remember, a shadow is just a watery reflection behind. It shouldn't be black. It's only when it's really deep that we want a black shadow. Sometimes you just want a paler, slightly darker shade. So now I have a shadow on that one. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. And so it's been a long time coming. It just really, some books I frighten the life out of me. I don't know why, but they do. So I think they could be kind of green, those things sticking out. Again, I'm going to forget there, and I'm going to go back to working under here. So I think I might actually use a cadmium red this time. I'm going with cadmium red. And one thing you've got to be careful is not to contaminate the brush tip. So let's see what we get now. So that's more like a burnt carmine. Puckle's been a bad boy. So over here we can get kind of really rich, deep colours, which again will make that pop out. And again, sometimes I like the fact that, oh, it's red. We've got some deep purple pink going on down there. So eventually you know that it's going to be shadowed. So that colour needs to go on here a bit actually as well. So that was, so I actually was right. I like cadmium red with dioxidine purple. And it's a darker red, so that's quite nice. So you can make it look 3D. And again, sometimes I don't want to do that. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I do want to get it look like you can just pick it up. And it all depends on, again, how you want to colour. So I've got cadmium red and dioxidine purple. And then we can, now this is a bit wet. I should have not quite gone so quick in there. But you can see here what the shadow you can build up with it. So you can take this down to here. And it's watered down a little bit, but we could take it to here as well. Now, really, you should have a toadstool to look at as a reference, but you don't have to. But sometimes it's nice to. So we can really bring that out, and then we can even go, well, we need to let that dry, but this side, if there's a little bit, and then you can really build up that, so you know. Oh, that's not flashed out, is it? So you can really build it up. And then we can go back in there with that sepia. I already said that. I felt that was quite damp. Let's have a quick look, make sure we're going to, oh, we need to let that dry because we've been in it twice now. So we have to let that dry because we've been through there twice, and you can see it doesn't like it. So I'm going to leave that one alone. I use the sepia down here, see if we can make something pop down here now. And you have to work out what's in front and what's behind. And this is where you can bring this one to life now. My brush keeps splitting. It's not a happy boy. So this one we can now start to think about, and we can still be darker on this side, but it may not be as strong. We make our shadows. And again, you know, if you're looking at a cone, then a pine cone, you can probably do the shadows so much better. We need some more sepia. You've got to be a little bit careful about touching other areas now. I really don't want to touch anymore because I will go through and I don't want to. So if you're very careful, you're okay. But again, I got a bit carried away. I went twice in this area. So if I'd have left it, it wouldn't have gone through. So I have to leave that alone now. Otherwise, I've been in so much trouble. And again, I need to leave that one on its own. I'm going to go under here a bit, I think. And so I kind of knew I'd get a bit carried away. Again, it depends what we're trying to achieve here. Just follow them. Bungle's playing with paper. So it gives it a bit more life. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, you cannot get carried away. It's not watercolor paper. But if you're careful and you stop and you leave it alone, possibly if I started this one as well and worked my way around, that's probably how to do it. But I'm quite pleased with the mushroom. I think it looks quite nice. And again, did not expect to be using watercolor paper. Sorry, watercolor paints in this little book. So I've got a tiny bit of a highlight there. So if I build all this up again and then leave that highlight is going to look better. It's going to look a bit better when you get that on there. So I am actually going to leave that. So I didn't learn my lesson on that side. So I'm going to stop this video, guys, because there's it's coming up to 2 hours. So we've got our Windsor & Newton watercolors, watercolor markers, mushroom color book. Thank you for watching. Coming back on, but you have to find me again. So thanks for stopping by, guys. And on YouTube, thanks for watching.